Okay, so for today's passport event, we are very happy to have Miss Jusilea Oliveira, who was our very first Fulbright FLTA that we had at Davidson County Community College in 2012-13, right? Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
And I have to say, she was our favorite, best FLTA ever. She makes me say that. But she's been back in her home country of Brazil since then, teaching, and she's agreed to come and talk to us today about Brazil. And she also invited her colleague, Gledson Bernardelli, who is here to share a little bit about the country of Brazil. So thank you guys for being here, and I know you'll be glad you came. So, all right.
Yeah, thanks for having us. We're really glad to kind of like to be able to share a little bit about Brazil with everyone. Right, Gladson?
I'll make you a co-host. I'll make you both a co-host. That should allow you both to share your screen, I think. Okay. So.
Can I try to share the screen? Is it there?
Yes.
That's working.
I apologize. It's the first time I use Zoom. I usually work with Microsoft Teams. I've never worked with Zoom. So I'm a little lost here.
No, it's perfect.
Yeah, so today our talk, like we would like to share very little. I don't think we're gonna have a lot of time to talk about Brazil, but we kind of like divided the presentation into like things that we think that you guys must know about it if you don't know yet. So it's just like a really informal chat about our country and our culture, and I think that's about it, right, Gladson?
Right, that's it. So let's tell them who we are first.
Yeah.
So who are these two people? Who are you, Jussi?
I am a former Fulbright scholar, as Susanna had mentioned before. I was born and raised in the city of Santos, which is like South Shore of São Paulo State. I have been a Portuguese English teacher for the past 20 years. Whenever we were doing this presentation, Glenn was like, people are not going to believe you have been teaching for this long. But yes, I started when I was really young. And yeah, that's about it. I'm currently working at an international school in São Paulo called San Nicolas. And that's it, I think, right?
Yeah. So I'm Gladson Nardelli. I was also a Fulbright scholar in the 12, 13, just like Jussi. That's when we met, and we became best friends ever since. And I'm not in São Paulo. I'm from Rolândia, Paraná, in Brazil, but I live in Londrina, okay, which is pretty close to my hometown, actually. And I've been teaching Portuguese and English for 13 years. And I was a Fulbright scholar at UPenn. Okay, I think that's it about me.
Mm-hmm.
So just we'd like to start by asking you something, okay? What is the first thing that comes to mind when you hear Brazil? Okay. What is the first thing you think about when you hear Brazil? I want you to scan this QR code here, or you go to menti.com and use the code 386699 so you can answer my question and so we can have a word cloud about it. Okay, so just a word cloud now.
We're gonna give you guys like a couple minutes to figure this out. And how many words like are they able to add, Glad?
They're able to add 6, but they can keep adding more. Or if you don't want to add 6 words, you can add less than that. There's no problem.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do add 6, that would be nicer.
Yeah, because we're gonna have more stuff to work with.
Yeah. just a little bit more so you can log in and type. Can we check what's going on? Let me. Oh, how do I? I'm struggling a little bit here. Sorry about that. I can't click on.
No, it's okay.
It's behind. Oh, here. So let's see if someone has typed anything. Oh, there we go.
Oh, wow. I knew soccer would be like the band, you know, the first word people
Yeah.
would think.
And then you look at,
Carnival.
ooh, he's Brazilian, so he is a great soccer player. No, I've never played soccer in my life. I actually tried it once when I was in 5th grade, and this boy kicked the ball so hard and it hit my stomach. I lost my ability to breathe, so I never played soccer again. So I can't play soccer at all. That's the first thing.
I love how accurate the words are. Like, you know, all of those words, they define Brazil a little bit. Like when we think of Brazil, like Carnival, yeah, we're huge on that. It's like one of our biggest festivals, like the favelas for sure. Rio de Janeiro, a lot of people like think Rio de Janeiro is the capital city, but it's actually not. The capital city is called Brasilia. Rio de Janeiro was the capital city for many, many years. And in the 60s, the country has agreed on having the capital city actually in the middle of the country. So they built up the city of Brasilia to be it was designed to be the capital city. What else have we got? Food.
Mm-hmm.
Suzanne has something because I think we went to a Brazilian restaurant in Greensboro, right? So if you guys want to try Brazilian, authentic Brazilian food, right, Suzanne? Can you talk about that a little bit?
I guess that restaurant is still there. That was for your birthday. I remember that. Yeah, Brazilian steakhouse. So that's really what Brazil is known for is meat, just like their neighbor Argentina. So if you go to a Brazilian restaurant, they will likely bring out these big skewers of different kinds of meat and just fill your plate with pounds and pounds of different kinds
Yeah,
Yes.
of meat. And it's delicious.
it is delicious.
Samba, Portuguese, our official language, right, Gladson?
Yes. Culture. Let me see culture there.
I like the word big because Brazil is huge. It's like the biggest country in South America. It's the only Portuguese country in South America. All the other countries, the others speak mostly Spanish. And we have the French Guiana that speaks French.
Yeah, that's
right.
And we are the only ones that speak Portuguese. Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had to be the different one, right? I wish we spoke Spanish then.
Fun fact is that we can understand Spanish pretty much everything, but Spanish speakers cannot understand us. It's weird.
They do have a hard time trying to understand
They
us.
have a
And
hard time
for us, it's much easier to pick up Spanish, for sure.
Yeah. But this
I
is
like the
pretty
sunny weather there. Like, yeah, like one, I don't know if this is part of our presentation. I can't recall that, but like here in Brazil, we tend to say, fun fact again, that we just have summer and the winter, and our winter is nothing compared to yours. Like when I say like, oh, it's cold here, you guys would be wearing certainly tank tops like around the country. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not the standard for like what is cold, what is not cold. But I mean, Gladson living in Philly, he really like, I used to live in Philadelphia as well. So I know what like getting lots of snows is like. Like we don't have snow in Brazil. It's not a thing.
Yeah, first time I went to the States, it was winter here, okay? I went in August, and I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt, and I went to the airport. Well, it's winter here. It's not winter there. So how bad can it be? When I got there, it was August, and I thought it would be okay, but I was so cold there, and they lost my luggage, and I couldn't get my clothes back, and I got to the United States wearing just shorts and a t-shirt because I wanted to be comfortable. It was a very but when I got there, I was really, really cold. And when I left here, winter time, I was hot. I was feeling really hot. It's weird. It's so different. But I think we have an idea here of what we were looking for. So let's
Mhm.
get to our presentation. I thank you for.
The contributions, they were amazing. You guys are super accurate about Brazil.
It's still going on, Josie.
Yeah, it's working here. You have to move to the next slide, though.
Okay, okay. So let's go to the next one. Well, we're gonna actually talk a little bit about where we live. This is Brazil. Okay, everyone knows Brazil. This is me. This is Jussi. Okay, and this is the exact places where we live. I live here, where my arrow ends, and she lives here, where her arrow ends. Pretty close, isn't it? Is it close, Jussi?
I think it is, even though we don't get to see each other a lot, which is a
Yeah,
very
we
weird
see each
thing. We
other
need to
once
start
a
planning
year.
more trips. But it is supposed to be close. It's because if this is one fun thing about Brazil, it's close, but like sometimes it's just like hard to get to places.
Yeah,
It's
but
quite expensive here.
I checked the distance before, okay, before we started. And the distance from where I live to where Jussi lives is the same distance as it is from Thomasville, where you are, to Washington, D.C. The exact same distance, okay? The exact same distance. So you can have an idea of how far
Mhm.
apart we are.
I wonder if you guys go to DC all the time.
Do they?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. All right. Because it's not that close, but it's just an idea of how big our country is. Okay. For example, everybody thinks, oh, the Amazon, the rainforest, everybody goes there. I've never been there. I'm 38 years old. I've never been there because look here in the map. I live here. The Amazon is up here. Okay. So I've never been there. I've never been to the rainforest ever in my life. Okay. How far up in Brazil I've been? I've been to Minas Gerais up here. Other than these states, I've never been anywhere. Jussi has because she travels a lot, don't you, Jussi?
I kind of do. I have family up north where it says Alagoas. Glad, can you point out where Alagoas is, please?
Oh, sorry. There's something
Yeah,
in front of
that's where my
Alagoas.
parents come from. We're gonna talk about this, a lot. Like a lot of people from the north of Brazil, in the northern parts, they have moved to the south back in like I would say like in the 70s for like job opportunities and stuff like that. So yeah, and I'm a huge I love traveling the world because of COVID right now. I've been in Brazil for like a year, a little over a year. I'm freaking out. Like I want to go abroad so bad. But I mean, traveling around Brazil, like this is one nice thing about the country. People say, "Oh, I've been to Brazil," and I usually ask like, "Where?" Because anywhere you go, you get a different, totally different, like environment, even language-wise. Like certainly, my accent differs a little bit from Gladson's accent because he's from the south. I'm from the southwest, and whenever I go visit family up north, they speak really completely different. Sometimes they say stuff like slangs that they use up north that I'm like, what do you mean? Like I don't understand. And if I go all the way to the Amazon, certainly they will say stuff that I don't understand, or they eat stuff like, for example, we eat açaí. I'm sure most of you guys have heard of açaí before, which is like a Brazilian berry, like this tiny purple. Like in here in São Paulo, I mean in the south, we eat that as like ice cream wise, like type. It's like bananas, that kind of stuff, like granolas. Up north, people eat that as a salty stuff, like they eat that with fish. And they find it really weird that we eat that as a treat. They're like, this is not the right way to eat acai. So it's a huge country. Therefore, I mean, it's the same thing compared to the States. Like if you are out east and you go all the way to the west, like California, it's a whole different country, language. I mean, I remember first like I said, I used to live in Philly, and then I was a Fulbright scholar in North Carolina. My very first meeting, very first one, I was so focused because I didn't understand people. Like I spoke English and I was already fluent, but like the bless your heart thing, I was like, what are these people talking about? Like I don't know those things. So it's just like here. If I travel like around Brazil, I'll get different, a different environment, different language, different food, and so on and so forth.
Yes, that's true. And other regions have they are so different. And like I don't know these area here as much as I would like. So we always tend to think that they speak all of them speak the same way, but they don't. Their accent is really different. My grandma is from Ceará, which is up here. I've never been there because I don't know, but it is huge. The country is huge. As Jussi said, we have acai here as ice cream, and up there in the north, which is the green part here, they have acai as a savory stuff. So
Yeah,
I've
it's
never.
like a side dish, like right? As
Yeah,
we eat rice and beans, they have like acai and like something else.
it's the same feeling as avocado for us and you, because when I went to the US and I saw people eating avocado as a savory thing, I was like, whoa, that's gross. Because avocado is like a dessert. We eat it with sugar. We don't eat it with salt. We don't put it on food. So it was really weird for me, and that's something I didn't get. And that's pretty much the same thing. And we have such things within the country here.
But I think this is what makes our countries like so special, the States and here. It's because anywhere you go, you get like a different vibe, like you experience different things. So when people say I've been to the US before, I always ask where. Because
Yeah.
I lived in Philly for 2.5 years, and then I lived in North Carolina for like a whole year. And like the Southern barbecue, I mean, the South is, hands down for the South, guys. I love North Carolina. So it's just like a whole other experience in terms of eating and speaking. It's not because I'm here, but Suzanne knows like how much I love and how special this whole experience was for me. So it was like literally I tell people I lived in two different United States. Like I lived in Philly, it's like one US, and then I lived in North Carolina, it's living in another US country. It is really cool. So it's the same thing with Brazil. Like if you live in São Paulo, then for some weird reason, like you get a scholarship and you move to Paraná or to Pará, you know, it's like it's a whole other Brazil. Like you're like, whoa, it's the same country. So it's,
Yeah,
you know,
it's pretty different. And that's because we're the fifth largest country, right? And if you look at Brazil, we're roughly the same size as the US if you don't consider Alaska and Hawaii, the whole country that is connected to each other, to the states connected to each other. That's roughly the same size of Brazil. So you get an idea of how diverse we are, right?
Christina sent something in the chat saying that you guys have acai bowls, right? We here, I would say like besides the north states, which are the like the greenish ones in the map, yeah, we have the same acai bowls as you guys. But I personally have tried acai in the States. It doesn't taste like acai in Brazil. So, Christina, you have to come to Brazil to taste the acai here. It's a whole other experience. But it's pretty much like the way you guys have it there. But up north, it's a whole other acai culture, if I can, put this way. But yeah, we do have it. They're like smoothies, bowls, just like you guys have it there.
Well, can we move on? Okay, so do you want to talk about where you live?
Yeah, so like I said before, I live in São Paulo. It's the southeast. We have 12.3 million people living in the city. That's in the city, yeah? That's in the city of São Paulo and the state of São Paulo.
The population, it's just the
Yeah.
city and not the metro area. The metro area is 20.
Whoa. I always get blown, like mind blown at like how huge São Paulo is sometimes. It's the fourth most populated city, and the pace of life is like super fast. Like I come from the shore, and after I had my Fulbright experience, whenever I moved back to Brazil, I got a job in São Paulo because most of the tech companies, I mean, most of the business done in the country they are done in São Paulo. Even though Brasilia is the capital city, people go to Brasilia more for governmental purpose, just like going to the sea and go to New York, I would say, right? Like, so most of the business, they are in São Paulo. São Paulo, like Gladson said, I've traveled a lot and I've been in a lot of capitals around the world. São Paulo is one of the nicest cities I have ever been. It's not because I live there. Like, anything you can think of about Brazil, you can find in São Paulo. Like, good music, good food, best universities in the country. I mean, everything about São Paulo is special. Like, if you go to São Paulo, then in the day you have a vibe. Like, then in the evening, just this like party city, with like a lot of bars, a lot of like pizza places. São Paulo is well known because of their pizza. So yeah, it's a really nice city. But when we talk about fast-paced life, like, it is, people barely look at each other because they're just in a rush, going to work, getting a subway, getting on the buses, like getting to work, getting back home. I think Paulistanos, who are the people born and raised in São Paulo, they don't get to enjoy the city as much as like tourists or like people from other cities when they go to São Paulo. I don't know if you agree with me, Gladys.
I do, because I have family in São Paulo, and when I go visit them, that's when they go visit some places in São Paulo. You know, when I'm there, I say I want to go to that place because I saw it on the internet and it's a great place. And it's like my cousin who has lived there her whole life. She has never been there. She doesn't even know the place exists. So she goes there with me. So that's when she's a tourist in her own the
City.
place. You know, that's pretty nice too. And this fast-paced life, it drives me crazy. That's why I don't live in São Paulo. I live in Londrina, which is in the south. And you can see here in the picture, we have a little bit of a cold weather here. Every time Jussi comes here to visit me, she never gets this cold weather because she usually comes in January when it's hot. But if you come here in July, it's really, really cold. And but it's just that. It's a little bit of cold, just a little bit. Nothing compared to the cold that I experienced in Pittsburgh, which was the coldest place I've been. Maybe it was the day that I was there, but the coldest I've experienced was in Pittsburgh. It was also the first time I saw snow. I was there, and I was so excited that I was barefoot on the snow because I just forgot to put my shoes on when I saw there was snow outside. But anyway, I almost froze. And this is Londrina. We are under 600,000 people. Okay, so it's not a very big place. But the city where I come from, we are 50,000 people only. So it's really small. And around here, it's mostly rural. Like now, looking through my window, I live on the 17th floor here. But when I look at through my window, and I live in this neighborhood here from the picture. I took this picture actually, and I live back here. I live on the 17th floor, but when I look back there, I only see farms and plantations around here, around where I'm looking. Okay, this is facing the other side. The picture is facing the other side, but so it's a very rural place, and our pace is really slow. It's like I start working at 8, and sometimes I leave my house at 7:40. I just go my own pace, and that's what I love. That's why I live here. That's why I love to live here, right? Because it's very slow. It's not the crazy life they have in São Paulo. Some people enjoy that, like Juicy does, because she is very fast-paced, but I'm not. I'm very slow-paced. So I prefer to live here and be slow, do things my own time. I get back from work. I get back home and cook my lunch and eat my lunch, and then I go back to work. Okay, because my last class in the morning ends at 11:20, and then my first class in the afternoon starts at 1:30. So I have the whole like 2 hours. So I go home, I cook my meal, I eat my meal, then I go back to work. Sometimes I even take a 10-minute nap. So I love this slow-paced life. If I lived in São Paulo, I would never be able to go home at lunchtime.
That would never happen in São Paulo. Sometimes it takes people like 2.5 hours to commute to work.
Yeah.
It depends on where they are. So this like Spanish thing that we have, like the siesta thing that Brazilians rest after lunch. If you are in a slow-paced city, that is actually possible. Like Gladson said, you can, actually cook your meal, eat, and take a break before you go back to work. But in São Paulo, that would never, ever, ever happen.
Yeah, true. Oh, and that leads us to some stereotypes we have. We talked a little about soccer. Do you play soccer, Josie?
I used to. I played soccer from the age of 10 until I was 13. I was the worst soccer player in my team. I know that for a fact. Because every time they had like to kind of like pick the players, like, you're going to be part of my team. Nobody chose me. And I insisted 3 years in a row being a soccer player. But my dad loves soccer, so I was brought up in a household in which everyone loves and everyone is crazy about soccer. Crazy to the point of like traveling. My brother has been abroad just to watch soccer match. We cheer up for this soccer team like called Corinthians here. It's a São Paulo team, and my brother has been to Argentina, Chile, just because of soccer. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's the stereotype. That it's not just a stereotype. It's kind of true, right? Because people do love soccer. I've seen cousins of mine have huge fights because of soccer teams. It's like they spent years not talking to each other because one said a bad thing about the other cousin's soccer team. So it is kind of true. But it's something that goes from father to son, actually, because my father doesn't like soccer. He never did. So I guess I don't either. And I had that ball kicked in my stomach and I hate it. My brother doesn't like it either. My brothers don't like it either. So it's kind of something very family. It's a family thing, right?
Yeah, Suzanne sent a message in the chat to talk about Neymar, the soccer player in the picture. He comes from the city of Santos, the same city where I come from. And when he was 13, I worked at a school where he studied. So I kind of like covered classes for his teacher. So I taught him. At the age at the age of 13, he was already super rich. It was like, like a phenomenon. Like everyone wants to like know who he was, and he was this like this what we call soccer diamond. Like every single team in Europe wanted to purchase him, like purchase his
Nice.
soccer thing, right? So yeah, he comes from my city, and I kind of like could be his teacher. His family actually live near my parents in Santos. They have an apartment. They own an apartment near where my parents live as well. And when he used to play for Santos soccer team at the time, you would walk around, our neighborhood or in the mall. Like there's a mall nearby, and you could see him like going to the movie theater or walking in the mall, and people would be like, "Oh my God, that's Neymar right there. Let's take a photo with him," kind of stuff. So yeah, it's exactly what Gladson said. Like, if your family is big on soccer, everyone will be like crazy about it. So my brother is crazy about it. I am. My dad, my nephew is already. He's 2.5 years old. He has his little soccer ball. He walks around my mom's house like screaming "Go!" everywhere he goes. Channel passion we call it. But if you either love it or kind of like hate it, like there's no in between. I feel about it. Like I feel it's like
Most people do love it.
true.
True. Well, about the Amazon, I've never been there. I've never been to a rainforest. I've said it before. Have you, Lucy?
We have two huge rainforests in Brazil. We have the Amazon rainforest and we have the Atlantic rainforest, which runs from like all the coast. I have been to the Atlantic one um, because of field trips. Because as a teacher, I have to go with my students to like field trips to the rainforest. But like I have never been to the Amazon one. I would love to go there actually. Have you, Suzanne?
Yeah, I was just typing that in the chat box. I have actually. So
Ooh.
I've never flown to Brazil, but I have walked to Brazil. So when I was in college, I studied abroad in Colombia, in Bogota. And for our fall break, my friends and I flew down to a little tiny city in the Amazon jungle of Colombia called Leticia. And so one night we're like, which way is Brazil? And some people said, it's down that dirt road. So we started walking. And all of a sudden, people in the little houses were speaking Portuguese instead of Spanish and using at the time cruzadas instead of pesos. And we found a little bar and I had a caipirinha. And I don't remember walking back to Colombia. And then a couple of days later, we did take a little ferry down the Amazon River to Benjamin Constant in Brazil too. And we spent the night there. And Victoria's, yeah, there was no sign that said, welcome to Brazil. We were just walking down a road and suddenly we were in Brazil, not Colombia. So that was
When was that, Suzanne?
Oh gosh, 1985.
Okay, maybe that's why there was no sign. I hope they have a sign now. You know, some
Hopefully
sort of
they do.
border.
There was no border crossing. There was no, nothing.
Nice. That's so awesome.
It was pretty cool.
Ooh. What about Carnival? Juicy, can you say something about Carnival? Because that's something.
Yes, I am a
of
carnival
my life
person,
at
guys.
all. Because I live in Paraná, we don't celebrate Carnival here. It's just a holiday where we rest, but we don't do anything. There are no parades, there are no parties. It's just nothing. Carnival means nothing in my state, okay? Because everybody thinks it's a countrywide party. It's not. It's just around some states. Okay?
I was gonna say that, I'm glad you said it, because when people think of carnival, like they think like the whole entire country is partying all together at once. And that's not true. Like some people use that, you know, like take the carnival holiday, which is a 5-day holiday in Brazil, just to rest and spend time with their family. When I used to be young, that was a while ago, I would go out and go to the parades and party like a crazy person. Now, I don't do that anymore. But like, if you want to have a great, amazing, truly carnival experience, you've got to go to Rio, because they have the samba drum and the samba, we call them samba schools parade, which is like a carnival parade, kind of like, because the carnival comes from Italy, yeah? So like it's this Italian culture of like, you know, party and stuff like that. So yes, Rio, it's like the best place for you to go if you want to experience the samba carnival parade type of thing. If you want to have more, like we do have the state of Bahia, which is up north, also has a huge tradition when it comes to carnival, but it's like it's not samba, it's a different type of music called axé music, which is like a lot of like drums and stuff like that. So it's another like real like cool carnival experience if you ever want to come to Brazil during this time. um and now São Paulo has got their own like street parade, and they're becoming huge and huge. So every other year we have more and more visitors coming to Brazil and coming to São Paulo, not only for business, but also to enjoy Carnival, which is like now a huge thing. It's like they have this like huge sound trucks on the streets with music being played, you know, live music, and people like following the truck and dancing, you know, among us other people. So it's like you start mingling and talk to people you've never seen in your life. That in Carnival you just become friends with people, like, you know, just because they're like walking around with a huge other group of people. So it's actually one of my favorite holidays. Even though nowadays I don't go out, don't go to parades anymore, I still like to take this time to sometimes to go down, to go to the shore and visit my family, or you know, just go out with friends for like few drinks and listen to nice music. Yes, we are huge. Like Carnival is a huge festival here. It's like a huge holiday. We always look forward to that holiday because like a 5-day off holiday from work.
Yeah, I look forward to rest.
Yeah.
I rest a lot, but I've never been to a parade. I've never been to a carnival party because it just doesn't happen here. I'd have to travel, and well, I don't during Carnival. And there we have a picture of a favela. And people think that favelas are really dangerous places, and some of them are dangerous, but the situation has been changing, hasn't it, Juicy?
Yes, yes, the favelas, like they used to be this place in which people like were super afraid of going because the, I mean, like violence and this is another thing about Brazil that whenever people think of, they think, oh, it's a violent country. I always get asked questions such as like, oh, do you think it's safe for me to go to Brazil? All the time when I meet foreigners. And I tell people like, think of cities like high right crime in the States. This is what Brazil should, some part of the countries are like. So I tell people like, get to study a little bit of Portuguese. If you know Spanish, amazing, that's perfect. People like Gladson said in the beginning, people will definitely understand you if you speak Spanish to them. If you know a little bit of Portuguese, that's great. But just like, watch out and be careful, like holding your camera, like having your phone out, that kind of stuff. We tell people to avoid that. But now, as the years went by, I feel like the favelas have been more of a safe place. It depends in which favela you go to. There's some favelas, they're like super safe and they function as a city themselves. So like the favela da Rocinha favela in Rio, it's like a city. It's a city apart from Rio. If you go to Rocinha, they have like their own hospitals. They have like some sort of like sub-mayor, so who is in charge of the whole favela, of running the favela somehow. So yeah, it is still a dangerous place for people to go, but it has been this whole favela culture, like of being a super dangerous place. Luckily, it has been changed lately, right?
Awesome.
So this is something else that people like. I hear that a lot from people. Oh, Brazilians are super like mixed race, like I've been with my other Brazilian friends and people are like, oh, you guys all from Brazil, like a white person and me, I'm a black person, and someone is like super blonde or like, you know. So yes, these are the roots of our country. We are a very diverse country when it comes to people, right? So we tell people we have this like three different roots, which like we were colonized by the Portuguese. The Portuguese found the country when we had native indigenous here in Brazil. So we decided to put those three pictures because each one of these people represent um, our cultures and our roots. So yeah, so we have a lot of European descendant, like Gladstone. If you can, I mean, your last name is super Italian. If you can talk about this.
Yeah, but I'm mix because my grandfather is Italian and my grandmother, her father is black and her mother is indigenous. So I'm a huge mix. Okay, so some people in my family are their skin is really dark. Some people are really light. Some people have blue eyes. Some people don't. Because my family is a huge mix. Okay? So if you look at my family, you say sometimes you say, well, you're not even related, okay? Because sometimes there's a huge mix from these Italian people and this indigenous people. I'm a mix of all three of all three of these
Me
groups.
too. It's hard to tell because I'm dark skinned, but yes, my grandfather on my dad's side, my great grandfather, I mean, he was Portuguese, and my grandmother, she was native indigenous. So, and on my mom's side, they're mostly from Africa. We are still tracking like where in Africa, because one of my cousins, she's a sociologist, so she's like mapping our family right now. I'm also a mix of those three different backgrounds, and it's exactly what Gladstone said. Like I have some of my cousins, they're like white, green eyes. So when you have a family picture of like my whole family, it's like a rainbow. Like you have several different colors, you know, skin colored people. Um, yeah, so this is what Brazil is like. Like my grandmother, as I said, she was a native indigenous Brazilian, and back a couple of years ago, the government was kind of like doing, they were like searching people who descended from them and giving them like they're giving them some sort of like how do you say that, crops. Like my parents own a house up north that was given by the government because my grandmother was a native indigenous person. So yeah, yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah, and these three examples are
Padre
all three
Júlio
of them are
is a
Brazilian.
very important activist, priest, Catholic priest, and this is a really nice thing to be said. Brazil is like, most of the people in Brazil are Catholic because of our Portuguese colonization, right? But nowadays we have a lot of evangelicals, but our country is still mostly Catholic. So the Catholic Church plays a huge role in our country, I would say. And Padre Júlio is well known for helping people in the favelas of São Paulo. So he helps the homeless people, and he's super well known in São Paulo for doing this. Lia de Tamaracá, folklorist, and she's a singer. She actually went to my school last year to talk to the students, and she's a very important Black woman in her community in Pernambuco up north. So a lot of our cultural songs from the Black community, she's one of the like the most important icons from the Black community, so like singer writers in Pernambuco state up north. And Daniel Munduruku, he is a native indigenous writer, and he's like super famous and important. We have a law here, an educational law, in which schools should be talking about Afro-Brazilian authors as well as native indigenous authors to students. So as currently working as a Portuguese teacher for primary school, for elementary school, Daniel Munduruku is one of my favorite authors. I always tell myths of him, like from his tribe, his native indigenous tribe, to my students. They all love it. Like sometimes they're like, "Miss, is this in Brazil?" I'm like, "Yes, guys." So different from São Paulo, because São Paulo is such a huge city. But if you go like to the Amazon rainforest, you can see a lot of native indigenous people.
Okay, this is just a very important work from Tarsila Amaral from 1933. Workers, that she wanted to portray the differences. You see different sort of people, different characteristics, and this is pretty much what Brazil is, right? You know, we want to talk a little bit about how we struggled when we went to the United States. Okay, I I struggled with something, and some things were really, really different. Uh, did you do you want to share anything, Jussi?
Okay, so we decided to kind of like do the end of our presentation towards like differences, right? That you guys have there and we don't have here. So like um talking about like Halloween, like I'm just gonna go with the photo. Like we do celebrate Halloween in Brazil because I don't know why actually. We have our own holidays. But I think because we are really influenced by the American culture here in Brazil. So with that being said, we do celebrate Halloween, but it's definitely not the same way as like children going around asking like trick or treat type of thing. That was the first time when I was in Philly that I experienced such a thing. I was like, this is so cool. It's just like when we're watching movies and stuff like that. So, but we do celebrate with kind of like custom parties, mostly, I would say. Um, yeah, what else, Glad?
Yeah, but I put this question here. Where are all the children? be, and Halloween plays a huge part in this because, as I told you before, I got to Philadelphia in August. I was there August, September, October, and by the end of by Halloween was the first time I saw children. I never saw children. Where are all the children? That was something that was really odd to me. I know children are in school all day, and when they get home from school, they go to their houses, maybe. But it was really weird for me in Philadelphia because I never saw children. And then on Halloween, there were children everywhere, many, many children. And it was beautiful to see. It's like the movies, children trick or treating, and it was beautiful. And then I never saw children. I started working. I was a volunteer in a school in West Philadelphia, and that's when I saw children again. Then I started seeing children every day, like 3 times a week, because I was volunteering in a school. But that's the only time I see children in a school or during Halloween. Did you notice that too, Josie?
I did. This is one really nice thing, like a huge difference. Like we walk a lot in Brazil. Like
Yeah,
like Lesson owns a car. I don't need a car in São Paulo because I use the subway everywhere. It's like living in New York. Like if you have a car, it's a hustle because parking in São Paulo is awful. But like people walk everywhere and people use a lot of public transportation. So you see people every day, all day in Brazil, like children walking around, going to the bakery, like going out with their parents. And this is something that I was also surprised because while in North Carolina, I lived in a greenhouse. I don't know how much of you guys are familiar with the house that crossed the campus, right? So that's where I used to live, and I had a car, thanks to Suzanne and everyone else in campus. And I would drive to places, but like on regular basis, I wouldn't see people walking on the streets in the US, and that was like super weird at first. Like
yeah.
where is everyone? Like because everyone is driving their cars. Like you don't see people walking unless you are in a big city, like like maybe in Charlotte, I think, maybe like Raleigh, I would say.
Yeah, that was really different because here we always go out with, and I think that's because in the United States, children spend all day in school, right? And here is something that's becoming more common now to have children at school all day.
Hmm.
It's very common to that children study like in the morning from 7:30 to 12 in the morning, and then spend the whole afternoon with their grandmas, and they will go do errands with their grandmas and things like that. That's how I got to know the city, because I was all around with my grandma the whole afternoon. And the same goes to children who study in the afternoon, because children usually study in the morning or in the afternoon. So in the afternoon, they go from 1:30 to 5 p.m. And in the morning, they will stay home and go do errands with their grandmas and things like that. And that's very different. That's a huge difference that we have. And some other
I just
differences.
read something in the chat. Have you seen it, Glad?
I didn't get what you say.
Like, yeah, I agree. Like, yeah, maybe in big cities, like, college cities, like Durham or Asheville, or even, what is that college town, super famous? Um, Susan,
Chapel
you're
Hill.
mute.
Chapel
Chapel
Hill.
Hill, yes. Those places I do think people walk, but yeah, Americans are most spoiled because everyone owns a car, right? And then, and like it's a huge country as well. It like for people to go in order to go to the grocery store and stuff like that. I see the need of a car, for a car in the States. But here in Brazil, like owning a car, it's quite expensive. It was worse before. It's easier now. Most people have access to cars. Not saying like people don't own cars, but like here, public transportation is pretty good. So you can get a bus and go anywhere. You know, you can get on the subway and go anywhere. So there is no need for a car whatsoever, I would say.
Yeah, which is not the case from of where I live, because the buses are not that good. So we do
Yeah,
use,
it depends on the city, really. Yeah, it depends
yeah,
on where you
but
are
we
in the
can
country.
walk around also because it's a small place. Anyway,
Hmm. Bye, glad.
So yeah, I had a huge problem in the house I lived in the United States in Philadelphia because I put this question here: do you flush it? Because when I went to the bathroom, I would put the toilet paper in the basket next to the toilet. That's
Toilet.
what we do here. And the people from the house, they left me a huge note saying that that was not good. And I was like embarrassed. So embarrassed that I'm telling it right now. But it's you usually flush the toilet paper. We don't because our pipes cannot take it. All right. So we have a basket where we throw it. And that was very weird for me to flush the toilet paper because I always thought it was going to clog the toilet. And I was always
Yes.
going to clog. Oh my God, what am I gonna do? It's going to clog. Because if you do that here, if you're ever in Brazil, don't do that. You're going to clog your toilet. If you flush your toilet paper.
Yeah, so please, when in Brazil, don't throw your toilet paper in the toilet. Okay.
Another thing that I struggled a lot was with prices. Whenever I went to a place, I was going to buy something, the price on the price tag is not what I'm going to pay. That was so weird for me because here in Brazil, the price on the price tag is how much you are going to pay. So sometimes I saw something, I had that amount of money because I was a scholar. I didn't have a lot of money. So I want to buy this. And I looked at the price tag, ooh, I can buy this. And when I got to the cashier, it was like, you can't buy this because it's not this price, it's the price that is here. And that was really weird for me in the United States. I know that everybody there is used to it. You know that there's going to be a tax. And don't get me wrong, we do have taxes, but
A lot of taxes, actually.
yeah, we have a lot of taxes, a lot. But the thing is, you'll never know how much you're paying on taxes because they put the price after tax. Everything you're going to buy, the price is after tax. So when you see the price tag, that's how much you're going to pay. It's a lot. It's much more expensive, but it's the price. It's after tax. So that was I struggled a lot until I got used to it, to knowing how much I would pay for something.
Glad. So I'm not really sure if the first thing that waiters must hate me, it's what I'm about to talk about it, which is like tipping. Is it?
It is.
Okay, this is a thing. Like every time I have like an American friend in Brazil, they're like, how much should I tip? And we don't tip in Brazil. So it's not that we don't. Like if you go to a restaurant here, they'll 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 bring the check with a price and like a plus sign 10%, 10 to 13%, and then like a different price. So you don't need to add anything because the tip is already added for you. But that's only happens at like bars and restaurants. So any other place that you are used to tipping people, that's not gonna happen here. So if I get on a taxi cab, I'm not gonna tip the taxi driver. So it's a cultural thing. Like we don't tip people in Brazil. Like if I go to the manicure or I go to like a hairdresser, I don't tip these people. Sometimes if you go to a place and the service like superb, like, oh, maybe I should give, them like extra R$ 5 because they're so nice to me. But it's not a cultural thing that we must be tipping people. So whenever I was in the States for the first time, I did not tip people because I didn't know that. And people, I got all sort of weird looks.
True.
And I didn't know why. I was like, why are these waiters like staring at me like this? I gave them the money that it says right here. Like, what have I done? I don't know if this is what we're gonna talk about, Glenn.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Because that's when I met someone and we went to a restaurant and this person tipped. And that's when I realized. But I was like in the US for about, I had been there for about a month and a half or so. And I had eaten in all sorts of places because I didn't cook at home. And I never tipped because it's not part of my culture. You don't tip. It's very common that, well, who pays for the waiters? The restaurant pays for them, for their service, not the customer, right? So that was not part of my culture. So I think every waiter in Philadelphia must have hated me for a week, for about a month and a half, until this person told me that we should tip. Okay, and then I started tipping. But then I did something. You know that the paper, it comes with a space, so you can put how much you want the tip to be on your card. But I thought the tip had to be only money. So I, for a while, again before I learned, I would put the number on my bill, on my check. I would put how much tip I would leave, but that's on the card. And then I would leave the money also. And so I was tipping double. And so
Really? I didn't know
someone
that.
told me I shouldn't do that. So I think it pays off for the, I don't know. Oh, it was so weird. It was crazy.
What else? The party never ends one. It's like, I'm not sure if this is where you're gonna talk about Gladstone, but very first time I was in the States, Brazilians are known for carnival, right? And partying like no stop. So like if you go to a bar or a club in Brazil, it's 7 a.m. People will do tea party. Like people will be like, drinking and having fun and dancing and talking, and so on and so forth. My very first time, I was super like first time I went to the States, it was like 2006. So it's kind of, I had just finished college, I think. So I was still like the party girl, college type of girl, right? Still like into parties and clubs and stuff like that. It was like 2 a.m. They start turning the lights on, and I'm like, what is going on? What on earth? I was like, it's 2 a.m. Seriously? This is the time we leave our houses in Brazil to go to a club.
Yeah, true.
I was like so upset. I was like, I told all my Brazilian friends, I was like, guys, what's happening? They're like, it's over. I'm like, what do you mean it's over? We just got here. Like, no, that can be true. Like, this is the time we were kind of like starting to get our party started in Brazil. So to me, that was like super weird. I was like, no, that's so wrong.
Yeah. And that's actually, I actually liked it because I used to work in a nightclub, in a club here in Brazil. And the music stopped at 5 a.m. every day. The music stopped at 5 a.m. But then people would stick around, and we had to wait until the last person left so we could close the place. We would never kick anyone out. Okay. Days it was 7 a.m. I was there hating every single person, but I was there working, serving caipirinhas and serving beer and serving whatever they wanted because we had to wait. I don't know if that's the case for all of the clubs, but because I never stick around for this long. But when I worked in a club, I hated it because it was, my God, the music stopped at 5 and it's 7 and people are still there drinking. There's no music. It's like 5 more people there. We have to wait until they want to go home. So I actually like that it's 2 a.m., lights on, music off, get away, go home. It's time to go home. And as Josie said, 2 a.m. is the time that people are getting to the club.
Oh, I hated it. I hated it.
I hate to interrupt you. This is like really great, and I've really enjoyed having you. I also have another meeting right now at 1 o'clock. So, you know how we are in the States about like tracking time and being on time for a meeting. So I hope the two of you will like agree to come back again sometime and do this again.
For sure.
Wonderful. I'm sure the students have like some more questions out there, but it was great seeing you, Juicy. It was wonderful meeting you, Gladson. Does anyone have like a super quick burning question that they just can't wait to ask?
Yeah. Oh my God. I didn't see the time.
I know. It was so cool.
Time flies when you're having fun. But yeah, I have like a 3-hour Zoom meeting now. So I was supposed to be there at 1.
I think, Suzanne, if someone has a question or wants to know more about Brazil or wants to be in touch with us, like, I want to go to Brazil and I want to go to Brazil with a local, Suzanne has my email. So, whenever, if you want to talk to one of us, like you talk to her, she's going to pass the message. And we're going to be welcome to, answer any questions you may have. And if you want to come to Brazil and hang out with us, everyone's super welcome.
The never ending party. I'm too old for that, but Christina will come. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having us, Suzanne. Thanks for
having
inviting
us.
us.
Love you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.